Kang Doyen stood at the window of his office and watched the morning sun rise over Velros Colony. The field stretched out below him, golden wheat moving in gentle waves. Farmers were already out working. Children walked to school. Everything looked peaceful. Everything looked normal. But the message on his desk told a different story. He picked up the datapad again and read the words that had arrived an hour ago from the Galactic Assembly. The words were polite. The words were professional. But the meaning was clear. You are going to die and we cannot help you. Park Mirai knocked on his door. She was young, only 29, but she was the best communications officer the colony had. Her face was pale. Her hands shook slightly. The long-range sensors have confirmed it, she said quietly. 3,000 ships. They will be here in 48 hours. Kang Doyen nodded slowly. 3,000 ships. The Kruvath horde. He had heard the stories. Everyone had heard the stories. 47 worlds conquered. 47 civilizations enslaved or destroyed. And now Velros would be number 48. What did the assembly say? Park Mirai asked, though her eyes showed she already knew. Their nearest fleet is 3 weeks away, Kang Doyen said. They suggest we evacuate if possible. But we have 50,000 people and only enough transport ships for maybe 5,000. They said they are sorry for our loss. Park Mirai closed her eyes. Sorry for our loss, as if they were already dead. As if the choice was already made. Choi Jae-won entered the office without knocking. He was the colony defense coordinator, a former officer in the Galactic Assembly military. He had retired here 5 years ago looking for peace. Now he looked older than his 45 years. I have reviewed our defenses, Choi Jae-won said. His voice was flat. 3 patrol ships. Light shields. Old weapons. Against 3,000 Kruvath warships, we will last approximately 8 minutes. Maybe 10 if we are lucky. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Outside the window, a group of children played in a schoolyard. They were laughing. What about a distress call? Park Mirai asked. Maybe someone closer than the assembly fleet? I have checked, Choi Jae-won said. There is nobody. The assembly controls this sector. They have regulations, protocols, jurisdictions. By the time they approve a rescue mission, we will have been gone for 2 weeks. Kang Doyen walked back to the window. He had been the administrator of Velros Colony for 12 years. He had watched this place grow from a few hundred pioneers to a thriving community of 50,000. He had performed marriages, named children, buried the old. This was his home. These were his people. There must be something, he said quietly. Park Mirai was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I was going through the old colonial archives last night. I could not sleep. I found something. A treaty, very old, from when this colony was first established. She pulled up a file on her datapad. The Treaty of New Beginnings, signed 103 years ago. The Velros system was jointly developed by the Galactic Assembly and another species. This other species helped build the infrastructure, the power stations, the atmospheric processors. They were partners. What species? Kang Doyen asked. Humanity, Park Mirai said. Earth. The treaty has a clause, Article 7, mutual defense provisions. If either party is attacked, the other will come to their aid. Choi Jae-won shook his head. The humans withdrew from galactic politics 50 years ago, after the assembly refused to help them during the Pioneer incident. 23 of their people died while assembly ships waited for permission to cross a territorial boundary. The humans were disgusted, they left. Nobody has heard from Earth in decades. But the treaty is still valid, Park Mirai said. Legally binding. Article 7 has no expiration date. They are gone, Choi Jae-won said. They will not answer. And even if they do, what could they send? When they left, they were a minor military power. 3, maybe 4 warships total. Against 3,000 Kruvath ships. It would be suicide. Kang Doyen looked at Park Mirai. Do you believe they would come? She hesitated. Then she said, I do not know. But I know this, everyone else has already said no. The assembly has abandoned us. Our allies have regulations that prevent them from helping. We have 48 hours and no options. What do we have to lose by trying? Choi Jae-won looked at Kang Doyen. She is right. Even if the humans do not answer, we are no worse off than we are now. Kang Doyen nodded slowly. Send the message. Park Mirai returned to the communications center. Her fingers moved across the console, finding the old diplomatic frequencies that had not been used in 50 years. She crafted the message carefully. Every word mattered. "This is Velros Colony," she transmitted into the void. "We are 50,000 souls. The Kruvath horde comes. The galaxy has abandoned us. We invoke the Treaty of New Beginnings, Article 7, Mutual Defense. If humanity remembers us, if you can hear us, we have 48 hours left." She paused. Her voice broke slightly as she added, "We thought no one would come." The message transmitted. The signal raced out into space, traveling toward a distant star system that most of the galaxy had forgotten. Park Mirai sat at her station watching the empty display screens, hoping for a reply that would probably never come. Hours passed. Nothing. The colony began preparations. Choi Jae-won organized the 3 patrol ships for a desperate last stand. Kang Do-yeon addressed the colony, telling them the truth. There was panic. There were tears. But there was also courage. The people of Velros decided they would face the end with dignity. Park Mirai did not leave her station. She stared at the communications console, willing it to give her something. Anything. A sign that someone out there cared, that someone remembered. 36 hours until the Kruvath arrived. The sensors tracked their approach. The massive fleet moved through space like a dark cloud, blotting out the stars. Park Mirai watched them come. Still, she did not leave her post. 24 hours until the Kruvath arrived. Families gathered together. Some people prayed. Others worked, refusing to give up until the last moment. The 3 patrol ships launched, their captains knowing they would not return but determined to make the enemy pay some price. 12 hours until the Kruvath arrived. Park Mirai had not slept in 2 days. Her eyes were red. Her hands trembled. But still she watched the console. Still, she hoped. And then, with 8 hours remaining, the console beeped. Park Mirai stared at it, not quite believing. An incoming transmission. Old encryption protocols. Human encryption protocols. Her hands shook so badly she could barely activate the receiver. The voice that came through was calm, professional, and absolutely certain. "Velros Colony, this is United Earth Defense Command. Your message received. We remember. We are coming. Hold on." Park Mirai sat frozen for a moment. Then she started crying. She keyed the colony-wide channel, her voice breaking with emotion. "They answered," she said. Earth answered. "They are coming." In his office, Kang Do-yeon heard the words and closed his eyes in relief. In the defense center, Choi Jae-won stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Across the colony, 50,000 people heard the message and felt something they thought was gone forever. Hope. But even as they celebrated, one question remained. What could Earth possibly send that would make a difference against 3,000 Kruvath warships? The humans had been a minor power 50 years ago. Could they really help? Or were they just coming to die alongside Velros? Park Mirai did not care. For the first time in 3 days, she allowed herself to believe they might survive. Someone had answered. Someone had remembered. Whatever happened next, they would not face it alone. The message from Velros Colony reached Earth 37 hours before the Kruvath would arrive. It traveled through space on old frequencies that had not been used in 50 years. When it arrived at the Deep Space Monitoring Station beyond Neptune, the AI systems flagged it immediately as high priority. Within minutes, the message was on the desk of Fleet Admiral Yoon Taemin in Geneva. He listened to it 3 times. Each time he heard the fear in the young woman's voice. Each time he heard the words, "We thought no one would come." Yoon Taemin was 58 years old. He had spent his entire adult life in Earth's military. He remembered the day, 50 years ago, when humanity had walked away from the Galactic Assembly. He had been a young officer then, filled with idealism about joining the greater galactic community. That idealism had died when he watched assembly ships refuse to save 23 human scientists because the proper paperwork had not been filed. He called an emergency meeting of Earth's High Council. Within an hour, the most powerful people on Earth gathered in a secure conference room. Director Lee Kyung-min from Intelligence was there. Ambassador Song Hyerin, now 65 and long retired, came as well. She had been the one to walk out of the assembly chambers 50 years ago. Yoon Taemin played the message from Velros. The room was silent when it finished. 50,000 people, he said quietly. The Kruvath horde, and the assembly has told them no help is coming. Director Lee Kyung-min spoke first. "With respect, Admiral, this is not our problem. The galaxy abandoned us. Let them handle their own affairs." We have our own people to protect. The treaty is legally binding, another council member said. Article 7 clearly states mutual defense obligations. Treaties signed with the Assembly are not worth the paper they are written on, Lee Kyung-min countered. We learned that lesson 50 years ago when they watched our people die. Ambassador Song Hyerin had been quiet until now. When she spoke, everyone listened. You are right, Director. The Assembly taught us that treaties without honor are meaningless. But Velros Colony is not the Assembly. They remembered us. They kept faith with a treaty from a century ago. They called us when everyone else said no. She stood slowly, her age showing in the careful movement. We did not leave the galaxy because we stopped caring about people. We left because the Assembly cared more about rules than lives. Now someone is asking for help. Not the Assembly. Not some bureaucrat. Real people, families, children. The question is not whether they deserve our help. The question is whether we are still the kind of people who answer when someone calls. The room was silent. Yoon Taemin looked around at the faces of the council members. He saw the conflict there, the old wounds, the anger at being abandoned, but he also saw something else. He saw the memory of who they used to be. We vote, Yoon Taemin said, all in favor of honoring the treaty. One by one, every hand went up. Even Director Lee Kyung-min, after a long moment, raised his hand. It is decided, Yoon Taemin said. We go to Velros. Now let me explain what we are sending. He activated the holographic display. Images appeared in the air above the table. Massive ships, sleek and deadly. The council members leaned forward. For 50 years, the galaxy thought Earth had retreated into isolation. Yoon Taemin said. They were half right. We did retreat, but we did not hide. We built, we innovated, we prepared. Let me show you what humanity has been doing while the galaxy forgot about us. The holographic display showed orbital shipyards around Earth, Mars, and Jupiter, massive construction facilities that had been built in secret, hidden from galactic sensors. And in those shipyards, humanity had created something new. The Dreadnought fleet, Yoon Taemin said. 12 capital ships, each one 3 kilometers long, equipped with technology that makes assembly ships look like antiques. Gravity shear weapons that can tear apart enemy vessels at the molecular level. Quantum entangled shields that distribute damage across multiple dimensional layers. Skip space drives that make hyperspace look slow. AI tactical systems that can process battlefield data in microseconds. He changed the display to show specifications, power outputs, weapons ranges. The numbers were staggering. Director Lee Kyung-min stared at the data in disbelief. This is what we have been building, he asked quietly. This is what we built so that no human would ever again watch their people die while bureaucrats debate jurisdiction, Yoon Taemin said. Each dreadnought can engage multiple enemy fleets simultaneously. Together they could take on the entire Galactic Assembly Navy and win. Ambassador Song Hyerin smiled. It was the first time she had smiled about galactic affairs in 50 years. The galaxy thought we were weak. They thought we ran away. They have no idea what is coming. I am sending the 3rd Fleet to Velros, Yoon Taemin said. 4 dreadnoughts and their escort squadrons. Captain Han Sora will command from the Indomitable. Can they make it in time? Someone asked. Velros is 200 light-years away. The Kruvath arrive in 36 hours. Skip space drives can make the journey in 30 hours, Yoon Taemin said. They will arrive with 6 hours to spare. He stood. Send the message to Captain Han. Tell her to take the 3rd Fleet to Velros immediately. And send a response to the colony. Tell them we are coming. Captain Han Sora received her orders aboard the EDS Indomitable while the massive ship was docked at the Mars orbital facility. She was 38 years old, one of Earth's best tactical commanders, and she had never seen actual combat. None of them had. The dreadnoughts had been built for defense, for deterrence. Now they would be tested. She studied the intelligence reports on the Kruvath horde. 3,000 ships. Brutal tactics. 47 conquered worlds. They were experienced warriors who had fought countless battles. Her fleet would be facing them with 4 ships. But as she reviewed the capabilities of the Indomitable and its sister ships, her concern faded. These were not ordinary ships. These were weapons that represented 50 years of human innovation, anger, and determination. The Kruvath had experience. Earth had technology that would seem like magic. She called her senior officers together. We are going to Velros Colony, a human ally from a century ago. They called for help. Everyone else said no. We are going to show them what happens when you call Earth. The Third Fleet undocked from Mars. 4 massive dreadnoughts. Indomitable, resolute, defiant, and unconquered. Around them flew squadrons of escort ships, smaller but still more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen. Captain Han Sora sat in the command chair of the Indomitable and gave the order. Navigation, plot skip space course to Velros system. Maximum speed. Engineering, bring all systems to full combat readiness. Communications, send our response to Velros colony. The communications officer composed the message on the same old diplomatic frequency. The words were simple but carried the weight of 50 years of silence. Velros colony, this is United Earth Defense Command. Your message received. We remember. We are coming. Hold on. The message transmitted across 200 light-years of space. Skip space drive ready, the navigator reported. Captain Han Sora took a deep breath. This was the moment. This was when Earth returned to the galactic stage. Not as the naive junior member they once were, not as the betrayed species seeking acceptance, but as something new, something powerful, something that kept its promises. Engage, she said. Space tore apart. Reality screamed. The 4 dreadnoughts did not slip into hyperspace. They ripped holes in the fabric of space-time itself and stepped through. The violence of their departure sent shockwaves across the solar system. In orbit around Mars, sensor operators stared at their displays in awe. One moment, 4 massive ships were there. The next moment, they were gone, leaving only twisted space-time signatures that would take hours to settle. In Geneva, Yoon Taemin watched the departure telemetry. Ambassador Song Hyerin stood beside him. We kept our word, she said softly. Yes, Yoon Taemin replied. Now let us see if the galaxy remembers why you should never betray humanity. We have long memories, and we always pay our debts. The Third Fleet raced through skip space toward Velros, carrying with them the hope of 50,000 colonists and the promise that Earth always kept its word. In 30 hours, the Kruvath Horde would learn a lesson that would echo across the galaxy. Never underestimate the quiet ones. They might have been preparing for war while you were celebrating peace. Space rippled at the edge of the Velros system. Reality twisted. Then, like a wound opening in the darkness, the Kruvath Horde emerged from hyperspace. 3,000 warships. They came in waves, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect military formation. Each ship was dark metal covered in weapons built for one purpose, conquest. Together they formed a fleet so massive it blocked out the stars. The sight was terrifying. On Velros colony, every sensor screamed warnings. Park Mirai stared at her display and felt her stomach drop. She had known they were coming. She had seen the numbers. But seeing it in reality was different. 3,000 ships. It looked like the end of the world. They are here, she said into the colony-wide channel. Her voice shook despite her best efforts. Kang Doyen stood in the command center with Choi Jae-won. They watched the tactical display as the Kruvath fleet spread out across the system. It was a standard intimidation formation. The message was clear. We are overwhelming. We are unstoppable. You should be afraid. How long until they reach us? Kang Doyen asked. At their current speed, 6 hours, Choi Jae-won replied. But they are broadcasting. I am putting it through. A voice filled the command center. It was deep, harsh, and spoke in the common galactic language. The voice belonged to Warlord Vrecken, commander of the Kruvath Horde. People of Velros colony, I am Warlord Vrecken. You have 1 hour to surrender. Transmit your acceptance of Kruvath rule. Those who surrender will become workers for the Horde. You will serve. You will obey. You will live. Those who resist will be destroyed. Your ships will burn. Your cities will be ashes. Your names will be forgotten. You have 1 hour. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Silence filled the command center. Choi Jae-won spoke first. Workers mean slaves. Half the population would be killed immediately as examples. The rest would live in chains. This is what they did to the other 47 worlds. Can we negotiate? Kang Doyen asked, though he already knew the answer. The Kruvath do not negotiate, Choi Jae-won said. They conquer. That is all they do. That is all they have ever done. Kang Doyen tried anyway. He opened a channel to the Kruvath flagship. Warlord Vrecken, this is Administrator Kang Doyen of Velros colony. We are a peaceful people. We have no quarrel with the Kruvath. Please, there must be another way. Vrecken's response came quickly. His voice carried amusement. There is another way. You can die quickly instead of slowly. Surrender or fight, it does not matter to me. I have conquered 47 worlds. You will be 48. Your pleading is boring. You have 59 minutes remaining. The channel closed. Kang Doyan closed his eyes. He had tried. It had been hopeless, but he had tried. What about Earth? Someone asked quietly. The message said they were coming. Park Mirai checked her console. No sign of them. Long-range sensors show nothing. The hour passed slowly. Every minute felt like an eternity. Families gathered together. Parents held their children. Old friends embraced. The colony prepared for the end. Some people cried. Others sat in silence. A few prayed to whatever gods they believed in. Choi Jae-won made a decision. I am taking the 3 patrol ships out. We cannot win, but we can make them pay some price for what they are doing. Kang Do-yeon nodded. Go with honor. The 3 patrol ships launched from the orbital station. They were small vessels, lightly armed, designed for pirates and smugglers. Against 3,000 Kruvath warships, they were nothing. The pilots knew this. They launched anyway. The hour expired. Frecken broadcast again. Your time is over. You did not surrender. So be it. All ships advance. Destroy their defenses. Prepare ground forces for landing. Make it quick. The Kruvath fleet began moving forward. 3,000 ships advancing like a dark tide. On Velros, people watched the sky and waited for death. Park Mirai had not left her station in 3 days. She was exhausted. Her eyes hurt. Her hands trembled. But she kept watching the sensors, kept scanning the empty space, kept hoping for a miracle that seemed like it would never come. Kang Do-yeon activated the colony-wide channel one last time. His voice was steady even though his heart was breaking. People of Velros, this is Administrator Kang Do-yeon. We face our end, but we face it as free people. We are Velros. We may fall, but we fall standing. We die free. The Kruvath fleet was 40,000 kilometers away. The 3 patrol ships moved to intercept, knowing they had maybe 2 minutes before they were destroyed. Weapons charged on the Kruvath vessels. Missile bays opened. It was over. Then Park Mirai's console exploded with alerts. Every sensor screamed at once. Energy readings that made no sense. Spatial distortions that should not exist. She stared at the display, not understanding what she was seeing. Contact, she shouted. Multiple contacts. Massive energy signatures. Range 50,000 kilometers. They are using some kind of jump technology I have never seen. They are right on top of us. Space did not shimmer like hyperspace. Space did not ripple like jump drives. Space tore. Reality ripped apart like fabric, violent and loud and impossible. 4 holes opened in the darkness between the Kruvath fleet and Velros colony. And through those holes came the Dreadnoughts. 4 ships. Each one was 3 kilometers long. They were sleek, where the Kruvath ships were brutal. They were elegant, where the Kruvath ships were crude. They were covered in weapons that looked like nothing Park Mirai had ever seen. The sensor readings were impossible. Power outputs that exceeded entire Kruvath battle groups. Shield strength that made assembly defenses look like toys. The 4 ships materialized in perfect formation between the Kruvath fleet and the colony. They appeared so suddenly, with such overwhelming presence that for a moment everyone just stared. Then the lead ship broadcast on all frequencies. The voice was calm, professional, and absolutely certain. A woman's voice. Kruvath Fleet, this is Captain Han Sora of the Earth Defense Ship Indomitable. 3rd Fleet, United Earth Defense Command. You are in violation of the Treaty of New Beginnings, Article 7, Mutual Defense Provisions. Velros Colony is under Earth protection. You have one chance. Turn around and leave this system immediately, or you will be removed by force. You have 5 minutes to comply. In the command center on Velros, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. They came. Earth actually came. On the Kruvath flagship, Warlord Vrecken stared at the 4 human ships. Then he started laughing. It was a deep, cruel laugh that echoed across his bridge. 4 ships? He said between laughs. 4? I have 3,000. You humans must be insane, or your mathematics is terrible. But your courage is admirable. I will make your deaths quick as a reward. He opened a channel back to the human ships. Human captain, you have made a mistake. A brave mistake, but a mistake. My fleet will crush you. Then we will take the colony anyway. You have come here to die for nothing. Captain Han Sora's response was simple and cold. No, Warlord. You have made the mistake. You see 4 ships. We see 3,000 targets. There is a difference. 4 minutes, Frecken stopped laughing. Something in her voice made him uneasy. He had conquered 47 worlds. He had faced desperate enemies before. But this human captain did not sound desperate. She sounded certain. On Velros colony, Park Mireille was crying. Kang Doyen had his hand over his mouth, afraid he might sob. Choi Jae-won, the former assembly officer, stared at the tactical display and whispered one word. Impossible. But the Dreadnoughts were there, 4 ships against 3,000. 4 ships that had crossed 200 light-years in 30 hours. 4 ships that had torn holes in reality itself. 4 ships that represented 50 years of human anger, determination, and innovation. The 5-minute countdown began. The galaxy held its breath, and humanity prepared to remind everyone why you should never, ever betray someone who keeps their promises. The 5 minutes passed slowly. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Han Sora watched the countdown timer. Around her, the crew worked in calm silence. They had trained for this. They were ready. The Kruvath fleet had not moved. Warlord Vrecken was making a choice. His pride would not let him retreat. He had never backed down before. 47 worlds had fallen to him. He would not be intimidated by 4 ships no matter how large they were. The timer reached 0. On the Kruvath flagship, Vrecken made his decision. All ships attack formation. Surround them. Bury them in our numbers. Show these humans why the Horde is feared across the galaxy. 3,000 Kruvath warships began moving. They spread out trying to surround the 4 human vessels. Weapons charged. Missiles loaded. The Kruvath had one strategy: overwhelming force. Captain Han Sora sighed. They chose poorly. Weapons officer, you are free to engage. Tactical, coordinate with resolute, defiant, and unconquered. Show them why we call these Dreadnoughts. What happened next was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The Indomitable fired first. Not missiles. Not plasma cannons. Something else entirely. The gravity shear weapons activated. Space itself twisted. 20 Kruvath ships simply came apart. They did not explode. They did not burn. They disintegrated at the molecular level, torn apart by gravitational forces that should not exist. The other 3 Dreadnoughts opened fire as well. Quantum lance arrays shot beams of pure energy across space. These beams punched through Kruvath shields like they were made of paper. Ships exploded. Debris scattered. In the first 10 seconds, 50 Kruvath vessels were destroyed. The Kruvath responded with everything they had. Thousands of missiles launched. Energy weapons fired from all directions. The 4 human ships were surrounded by a storm of destruction. It looked overwhelming. It looked impossible to survive. But the human shields did not fail. Quantum-entangled barriers flickered around each dreadnought. When a missile struck, the energy did not destroy the shield. Instead, the damage was distributed across multiple dimensional layers. The shields took hits that would destroy entire fleets and barely flickered, and the point defense systems were perfect. AI systems tracked every incoming projectile. Laser grids calculated trajectories in microseconds. Thousands of missiles, all destroyed before they reached their targets. The Kruvath threw everything at the 4 ships, and nothing got through. 3 minutes into the fight, 500 Kruvath ships were gone. The human vessels had not taken any damage. On Velros colony, Park Mireille watched the sensor readings and could not believe what she was seeing. The tactical display showed the 4 Dreadnoughts moving through the Kruvath formation like they were dancing. Every movement was perfect. Every shot was precise. The Kruvath were trying to swarm them, but the humans were always one step ahead. How are they doing this? Choi Jae-won whispered. He had served in the Galactic Assembly military for 20 years. He had seen the best ships, the best tactics, the best technology the galaxy had to offer. This was beyond anything he had ever imagined. AI tactical systems, Kang Doyen said quietly. He was reading the analysis from their sensors. The human computers are predicting enemy movements before they happen. They are positioning their ships perfectly. It is not just better technology. It is better thinking. 7 minutes into the fight, 1,000 Kruvath ships were destroyed. The 4 human vessels still showed no damage. They moved through space with terrible grace, their weapons finding targets with perfect accuracy. On the Kruvath flagship, Sub-Commander Thrakis was screaming, "Warlord, we must retreat. They are slaughtering us. We have lost a third of the fleet." Warlord Vrecken stared at the tactical display in disbelief. This was impossible. 4 ships. 4. How were they doing this? His fleet had conquered 47 worlds. They had destroyed entire planetary defense systems. They had fought assembly ships and won. But these humans were not fighting. They were executing. Press the attack, Vrecken ordered, his voice desperate now. All ships, maximum firepower. They cannot stand against all of us. But even as he gave the order, he knew he was wrong. The humans were standing against all of them. And they were winning. 15 minutes into the fight, 1,200 Kruvath ships were destroyed. The human fleet was not even damaged. The Indomitable moved forward and Kruvath vessels scattered before it like fish fleeing a shark. Fear was spreading through the horde. These conquerors who had terrified 47 worlds were learning what terror felt like. Captain Han Sora watched the Kruvath formation breaking apart. They were starting to flee. She opened a channel to her fleet. Third Fleet, they are routing. Pursuit course. Show them they cannot run. Leave the command ship intact. I want them to tell everyone what happened here. The 4 Dreadnoughts accelerated. Their skip space drives allowed them to make short jumps, appearing ahead of fleeing Kruvath ships. Every time the Kruvath thought they had escaped, a human vessel appeared in front of them. It was psychological warfare. The message was clear: you cannot outrun us. We are faster than you. We are stronger than you. You are prey. 20 minutes into what could no longer be called a battle, 1,800 Kruvath ships were destroyed. The survivors were scattered, fleeing in all directions. Warlord Vrecken sat in his command chair and realized that his career of conquest was over. He had finally met an enemy he could not defeat. Sub-Commander, he said quietly. Broadcast surrender. Thrakus stared at him. Warlord, do it. Vrecken shouted. Before they destroy what is left of the fleet. Surrender. The transmission went out on all frequencies. Human ships, this is Warlord Vrecken of the Kruvath Horde. We surrender. We surrender. Cease fire, please, we surrender. Captain Han Sora received the transmission. She signaled her fleet to hold fire. The weapons stopped. The killing stopped. In the silence that followed, 800 Kruvath ships remained out of the original 3,000. She opened a channel to the Kruvath flagship. Her voice was cold and professional. Warlord Vrecken, your surrender is accepted. But it comes with conditions. You will return every slave you have taken from the 47 worlds you conquered. You will disarm your entire fleet, and you will broadcast what happened here to every corner of the galaxy. Everyone needs to know Velros Colony is under Earth protection. And Earth keeps its promises. There was a long pause. Then Vrecken responded, his voice broken. We agree, all of it. We agree. Then live with the knowledge that you came to conquer the weak and found the strong, Captain Han said. Dismissed. She closed the channel and looked at her crew. They had done it. 4 ships against 3,000. And they had won. On Velros Colony, the command center was silent. Park Mirai was crying again, but this time from relief. Kang Doyen sat down heavily, suddenly feeling every one of his 52 years. Choi Jae-won just stared at the tactical display. I served with the assembly fleet for 20 years, he said softly. We could never do this, ever. What have the humans become? Kang Doyen found his voice. They became what they needed to be. They became strong enough that nobody could ever abandon them again. And they remembered us. When everyone else forgot, they remembered. He activated the colony-wide channel. His voice was shaking with emotion. People of Velros, the Kruvath have surrendered. Earth has saved us. We are safe. We are free. And we are not alone. Across the colony, 50,000 people celebrated. They cried. They laughed. They held each other. They had been given up for dead. They had faced the end of everything. And then at the last possible moment, someone had come. Someone had kept their promise. In orbit above Velros, the 4 Dreadnoughts held position. They were silent now, their weapons powered down. But everyone who looked at them knew the truth. These were not just ships. They were a promise made real. They were proof that somewhere in the galaxy, someone still believed in keeping their word. And the Kruvath, broken and defeated, began broadcasting their surrender across the galaxy. The message would reach every world, every species, every government. The horde that had conquered 47 worlds had been destroyed by 4 human ships. Earth had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. Galaxy 2 days after the battle, the Indomitable landed at Velros Colony's main spaceport. The entire population came to greet their saviors. 50,000 people lined the streets holding flowers, waving flags, crying with gratitude. Children sat on their parents' shoulders to see the humans who had saved them. Captain Han Sora walked down the landing ramp with a small escort. She was uncomfortable with the attention. She had done her duty. She had kept a promise. She did not feel like a hero. But when she saw the faces of the people, when she saw parents holding their children who would have been slaves, she understood why they were grateful. Kang Doyun met her at the bottom of the ramp. He was an older man, worn down by stress and fear, but his eyes were bright with tears. He tried to speak but could not find words. Finally, he just bowed deeply. "Thank you," he managed to say. "You saved us." "Thank you." Captain Han Sora returned the bow. "We made a promise. Humans keep their promises." Park Mirai pushed through the crowd. She was the young communications officer who had sent the desperate message to Earth. She looked at Captain Han and could not stop crying. "I did not think anyone would answer," Park Mirai said. "The galaxy had abandoned us. I sent that message because I had no other choice. But I did not believe anyone would come." "We heard you," Captain Han said gently, "and we remembered that a century ago, Velros kept faith with Earth. You remembered the treaty when it would have been easier to forget it." "We do not forget our friends," Choi Jae-won stepped forward. He was the former assembly officer, the man who had seen galactic military power and thought he understood it. "The battle had changed everything he believed. Where has Earth been?" he asked. "What happened to you? The humans I knew 50 years ago could never have done what you did. 4 ships against 3,000. It should have been impossible." Captain Han Sora looked at him. 50 years ago, the Galactic Assembly let our people die. 23 scientists. They died because the Assembly cared more about paperwork than lives. We learned a hard lesson that day. If we wanted to survive, if we wanted to protect our people, we could not depend on anyone else. She gestured to the indomitable behind her. "So we built. We innovated. We spent 50 years preparing for the day when someone might need us, or when we might need ourselves. The galaxy thought we disappeared. We just stopped pretending the Assembly cared, and we got stronger." "But you came back for us," Kang Doyan said. "Why?" "Because you called," Captain Han said simply. "Because you honored an old promise. Because you are our friends. The Assembly taught us that institutions do not matter. Promises matter. People matter. You mattered enough to call us. So we came." While Velros celebrated, the news of what had happened spread across the galaxy. The Kruvath, as required by their surrender, broadcast everything. The message reached every major world, every government, every news network. The Kruvath Horde, conquerors of 47 worlds, had been destroyed by 4 human ships. On the Galactic Assembly Station, High Counselor Vareth received the reports with growing horror. Earth, the humans, the species they had dismissed as weak and irrelevant. Those humans had just demonstrated military power that exceeded the entire Assembly Navy. He called an emergency session of the Council. "We must contact Earth immediately. We must re-establish diplomatic relations. We must bring them back into the galactic community." What he meant was, we are afraid, and we need to control them. The Council sent a formal invitation to Earth. It was full of diplomatic language about cooperation and mutual benefit. They invited Earth to join the Security Council. They offered trade agreements. They promised friendship. Earth's response arrived 3 days later. Ambassador Song Hyerin would come to address the Council. She was the woman who had walked out of the Assembly chambers 50 years ago. She was coming back, but not as a supplicant. Ambassador Song arrived at the Council station with Captain Han Sora at her side. Behind them, visible through the station's viewing ports, the 12 dreadnoughts of Earth's fleet hung in space. All 12. It was a show of force impossible to ignore. High Counselor Vareth began with pleasantries. "Ambassador Song, it is good to see you again. Earth has been missed. We are pleased to welcome you back to the galactic community. Let us discuss how we can work together for the benefit of all." Ambassador Song cut him off. She was 65 years old and she had waited 50 years for this moment. Her voice was hard. "Counselor Vareth, let me save us both some time. We are not here to rejoin your assembly. We are here to tell you how things are going to work now." The council chamber went silent. Nobody spoke to the High Counselor that way. Ambassador Song activated a holographic star map. "These are 200 systems. Colonies, stations, settlements. They all have old treaties with Earth from when we actually believed in cooperation. We are honoring all of them. As of today, These systems are under Earth protection. The council erupted. "This is illegal," someone shouted. "You cannot just claim systems." "We are not claiming anything," Ambassador Song said calmly. "These systems are requesting our protection, and we are accepting. In the 3 days since Velros, 143 colonies have asked to join Earth's protection network. It seems when you give people a choice between assembly bureaucracy and Earth reliability, they choose us." High Counselor Verath tried to recover. "This is highly irregular. We must discuss this. There are protocols, laws. We cannot simply allow laws." Captain Hansora spoke for the first time. Her voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. "Like the laws that said you could not cross a territorial boundary to save 23 human scientists? Like the laws that said you could not help Velros because your fleet was too far away? Those laws?" The council had no answer. Ambassador Song continued. "Here is the new reality, counselors. Earth does not want your territory. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want one thing: for people to keep their promises. Help those who need it. Act with honor. We will defend any world that asks us. We will oppose any aggressor. And unlike this assembly, when we say we will come if you need us, we actually show up." A holographic screen appeared, showing Admiral Yoon Taemin broadcasting from Earth. His message was clear. "Galactic Assembly, this is Fleet Admiral Yoon Taemin, United Earth Defense Command. You had 50 years to do the right thing. You failed. Now there is a new power in the galaxy, one that believes actions matter more than words, one that keeps its promises. The galaxy is welcome to join us in that philosophy, or you can keep having committee meetings while people die. The choice is yours." The transmission ended. Ambassador Song and Captain Han turned to leave. "Wait," High Counselor Verath called. "We must negotiate. We must find common ground." Ambassador Song stopped at the door. "There is no negotiation, Counselor. You abandoned Earth, you abandoned Velros. You have abandoned countless others. We are offering the galaxy something you forgot existed: honor. People are choosing us, not because we force them, because we keep our word." She paused. "If you want to join us in actually helping people, we welcome it. If you want to continue playing politics while civilizations burn, we will work around you. Either way, Earth has returned, and we remember who our friends are." They left the council chamber. Behind them, the assembly dissolved into chaos. On Velros Colony, Park Mirai sat at her communications console. It was different now. She was not alone. She was part of a network. 143 systems, all connected, all protected by Earth. New requests came in every hour. Each one received the same message. Request received. Earth remembers. Earth keeps its promises. We are coming. Above Velros, the 4 Dreadnoughts prepared to leave. But everyone knew they were not really leaving. They would return if needed. They would always return, because that is what Earth did now. Kang Doyun stood with Captain Han at the spaceport one last time before she departed. "You have changed everything," he said. "The whole galaxy is going to be different now." "We just kept a promise," Captain Han said. "But yes, things will be different, because now the galaxy knows if you call Earth, we answer. If you need us, we come. That is what we are now. That is who we have always been. We just forgot for a while." She boarded her ship. The 4 Dreadnoughts lifted off, their drives tearing gentle holes in space as they departed. They left behind a colony that was saved, a galaxy that was changed, and a promise that would echo across the stars. 50 years ago, the galaxy had abandoned Earth. Now Earth was offering the galaxy something it had forgotten: hope. Not hope in governments or laws or treaties, hope in something simpler and stronger. Hope that someone, somewhere, would keep their word. Hope that when you called for help, someone would answer. Hope that promises still mattered. And in a galaxy full of broken promises, that hope was revolutionary.